Greetings. Today we're going to talk about covering crime and public safety, or the cops beat, as some of us lovingly refer to it. The cops beat has a little bit of everything: greed, violence, comedy, heroes, villains, scoundrels, victims, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Some humor too. If you haven't already signed up for the Campus Watch Daily Reports, do so. You're going to get great news story ideas, plus you'll get lots of laughs out of it. Why do we cover cops? Why do we cover firefighters, EMS, first responders? The basic principle is accountability. We cover law enforcement, public safety agencies, because we want to ensure they're doing their job of protecting us. Our job as journalists is to be responsible to the truth, not to glorify cops or firefighters or to gloss over their misdeeds or their errors. At the same time, it's vital that we maintain the very important balance between informing the people, the public, our audiences, and our professional obligation to prevent unnecessary harm to people. So what's involved in public safety reporting? Well, you've got crime, emergency response, which is ambulance service, firefighters, EMS. Then you've got emergency management, which is how a community is equipped to respond to emergencies from something such as weather disasters, rain, flooding, hurricanes, tornadoes, disaster response such as a hazardous spill on Interstate 35. You've got firefighter issues. At the core of all of those agencies that are lumped into the public safety coverage beat are pretty basic issues to take a look at. The money. Follow the money. How is it being spent? What is the revenue? Where is the revenue coming from? Look at the personnel. Are the departments staffed appropriately? Are they understaffed? Is there a great deal of turnover? Is there a lot of attrition, meaning that positions go vacant for a long time? How about the enforcement? Are they doing their jobs? Is there a quota for writing traffic tickets? Are we setting up no refusal weekends? Pay attention to that. What about compliance? All of these law enforcement and public safety agencies have to report certain basic information at the state level and at the federal level. Check those reports. Are they in compliance? Are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? And what's the controversy? Is there a conflict? Are there concerns? Are there questions about unnecessary use of force among police officers? Are there concerns that firefighters are working too much overtime and they're tired and stressed when they respond to a call? Are ambulances taking too long to get to certain parts of town? Those are all great opportunities for reporting. And that's what we call looking beyond the obvious, digging those rocks. If you want to be an effective reporter, you need to report on how these issues, these events, this controversy is going to affect the community at large. Okay, so let's talk about nuts and bolts. When you write a crime story, when you write a breaking news public safety story, think about it. Think about the organization of your story in a martini glass structure, where it's wide at the top, it narrows down to a stem, and then it comes back to the end in a wider paragraph. So start at the top with a summary news lead. In other words, who did what, when, and where did it happen? Then summarize the other key facts. When you've got that taken care of, then give us a chronology. Tell us when it happened, how it happened, when the train derailed, how many people were injured. Give us that list of how the event unfolded. And then come back to your conclusion and end it with a kicker. Go back to your lead, kick back to the lead, end it with a strong quote, give us a what's next paragraph. So regardless of what you're covering, these issues apply whether you're reporting a fatal car wreck, a construction accident, a flood, a hurricane, or that hazardous materials spill out on the highway. These issues all apply. Give us a careful description of what happened. If there was anything unusual going on, tell us about that. If it's a crime story, Give us information about the suspect and the victim. Put it in context for us. Is this an isolated incident, or is this a trend? Have there been multiple injury or fatal accidents at that intersection? We want to know how many people have died at that intersection, maybe because of line of sight, maybe because there's no stop sign or traffic signal. Always look for an authoritative comment. Give us an expert to give us insight on what happened. Get some witness details, give us motives. If there's credit or blame to be assigned, put that in your story, but make sure that you have attribution. Law enforcement authorities are sometimes notorious for wiggling out of what they told you at a scene. So if they tell you why this accident happened, make sure that you get their name and their rank and you use that in your story. And then, what are the long-term implications? What does this mean? Are the firefighters going to renegotiate a contract and try to get more staff so that they don't have to work as much overtime hours, so they're not tired, so they're not stressed? If that's an issue, if there's a controversy there, give us a solution. What are the negotiators in the firefighter contract talks proposing? What do they hope to accommodate? What's next? We always talk about rights of victims, and the good admonition I like to use is that you should be a humane truth teller. Put yourself in their shoes. How would you want the story to be described? Is the questionable material essential? How gory do you have to get? How graphic do you have to become? Consider the effects of your reporting. Don't leave facts out that are important, but try to decide whether including that information is going to further your reader's understanding of the story. That's your basic question that you need to answer in all the reporting you're going to do. And remember that the accused, the suspects, have rights as well. We don't convict people. Journalists, reporters, editors have to be so careful in the words that we choose that we do not convict someone who has not been found guilty of a crime. We can look back to the reporting in the aftermath of the Boston Marathon bombings and the Twitter accounts that were going crazy implicating people who should not have been implicating, actually running photographs, as the New York Post did, of two young men who were pictured at the marathon scene and implicated on the front page of the New York Post. When you have information, make sure that you are precise. Make sure you have complete names, you have addresses, hometowns, employment, where they live. Just think how many John Johnsons there are in the world. Think how many Jason Martinezes there are in the world. The more information we can get and provide to our readers, the more precise our story is going to be, and the less likely we are to have to run a correction or answer a lawsuit for misidentifying someone. Don't be vague when you're reporting that someone was arrested. Don't say that John Jones was arrested for murdering his wife. If you print that, you are telling your readers that Jones murdered his wife. That's what he was arrested for. Instead, say that Jones has been charged with killing his wife, or that he was arrested in connection with his wife's death. Murder is a legal term, and we don't use it in reporting until the law enforcement officers have used it. Now let's talk a little bit about racial identifications. We talk about this quite a bit in other reporting courses, and students typically say, well, it's better to identify whether the person was white, black, or Hispanic. Well, maybe so. Except, do all white people look the same to you? All Hispanics? All Asians? All blacks? I don't think so. Unless you can provide information of a physical description that conjures up a vivid picture of what that suspect looks like, I would suggest that you leave it out entirely. The best thing is to ask the police for a mugshot or a screenshot taken out of a video surveillance camera. Please remember that racial or ethnic descriptors tend to lump people into social groupings. So you don't want to say that a black man robbed the convenience store. It makes all black men suspicious. The best rule is that if a racial description fails to give a mental picture that most of us would share, it fails the test of journalistic value. Remember, if it doesn't further a reader's understanding of the issue or the event, don't use it. In Texas, we have some pretty substantial laws that help in our reporting on crime and public safety. We can get lots of good information from police, even though sometimes they're going to tell us that we can't have it. Remember that you can't have any information about juvenile suspects. If somebody is under 17 years old, you're not going to get that information unless the issue, the crime, the incident is so grievous and so public that police will have to release that person's name. Otherwise, you're not going to get juvenile information. Arrest records, confessions, and names of the victims of sexual crimes are also not going to be released. But you can get around a lot of that police stonewalling by asking for the arrest affidavit, which is public information, public record. 911 tapes are also public records. So are mugshots. So are search warrant affidavits. All of those documents can be obtained by asking for them at the Public Information Office or making a public information request at the courthouse or at the police station. Just know what you're asking for, be persistent, be tenacious, and get that information. Having that information will give you the context you need to write a good story, and even more importantly, it's going to give you the facts, the dates, the ages, the context that you need to write a precise and accurate story. The best advice I can give to anybody writing a crime story or a public safety story is to remember that you should avoid what we call the scoop mentality. It's wonderful to get it first, but it's much more important to get it right.